You are being forwarded to the contact center coach.
This program is sponsored by Proponisi, where I'm the president and CEO. Proponisi is the Greek word for coaching. We provide SaaS technology to centers like yours. Most contact centers struggle with their people, whether it be overcoming monotony, attrition, or getting superior performance. Our solution makes it easier and cost-effective to get even more than you could possibly have expected from your front line. The result is loyal customers, engaged employees, and winning, provable, profitable results. You can reach us at proponisi.com. Hi, and welcome to my second video podcast. This is Michael Tamer, and I've given myself the name the Contact Center Coach. And if you know me because you've been online and listened to some of my podcasts. We're at number 75 right now. And thank you so much for those of you that are listening. This video podcast is different for one simple reason. When you listen to my podcasts, all you do is listen to me. And I don't ever bring on any sort of guests. We don't ever bring any other expertise in. But with these video podcasts, we're trying something new. And the new thing we're trying to do is to bring really smart, bright people together to spend some time with so that you can listen to them. And David, I saw you move your head. So this week, we have what I consider to be the best and most brilliant networker in the contact center industry on the planet. And his name is David Hadobas. And David, after getting started in this crazy contact center business in 1991, founded CCNG, which stands for the Call Center Network Group. And if you go to his website, and I'm going to read it, and David, just give me a moment here to just talk a little bit about you and about your business. David's mission is to provide a for the people, by the people community where member-driven agendas guide events and conversations. And he's been doing this for a really long time, almost 30 plus years. And so it was born from a simple what if. What if you could enter a room with people like yourself? And what if there was a user group independent of the technology being sold? What if there was an easy way to collectively share unbiased information and experiences to have a voice amongst my peers? Well, after they spent some time and figured it out, there wasn't anything that really did that. So he created CCNG. They have three cornerstones that they work off, which is relationships built on trust. He actually mentions a handshake. And David, I'm going to ask you how much handshaking you're really doing these days. Perpetual learning and technology that solves problems. And I've got to tell you that I've known David for a really long time, not quite since dinosaurs have roamed the earth, but pretty close. And he's a great friend of mine, and I'm really grateful that he came on board to spend some time with us today. David, welcome. Great to see you.
Well, I'm not sure who wrote all that stuff, but thank you. Those very kind words. Yeah, we have known each other a long time, mainly because you're old, so that works to my benefit. Actually, I think I'm older than you, so I'll just pause that one right there. You talked about the why and the how and what's going through my mind as I'm listening to this is life in the contact center space was very different 32 plus years ago. In fact, it wasn't the contact center space; it was the call center space. And I'm thinking about when we got this concept in our mind, we wanted to share with people what we're doing. In that case, there was really only one way to share information. That was gather people. The way we communicated with them, don't laugh, mail, fax. We didn't have any phone numbers. Nobody had email.
The rolling fax.
Yeah, yes, exactly right. Oh, and for 90% of your listeners, like, hey, we're gonna have to Google what the heck is that?
Yeah, what is that? Right?
But that's and then as things, all volunteer group, as things started to materialize, and we got a little larger group, we rotated who had to mail because we had no money for stamps or envelopes, right? So, I mean, those are humble beginnings.
Sure.
But the why is still important, and you'll recall that we both worked for an employer that had a very strong user group. And I was fortunate enough, working basically for you, to insert myself into that user group and kind of be a liaison of sorts. And it really impacted me. What I learned was that here is a bunch of people that really enjoy each other's time, and they share what they're doing in their customer support operations. And they're not alike. newspapers are talking to healthcare companies, are talking to retail companies. Now, granted, they all had kind of the same platform, so but that aside, there was tremendous value, and they get together once a year. So that got me thinking: if you could get together with these people more frequently, and if you could get together with people who weren't using the same platform, what would that look like? And that kind of launched us into this industry user group for then call center managers, and that was our beginning.
So it's so fascinating. People need other people, and in my podcast I talk all the time about the fact that employees are really only looking for three things, right? They want a clear job description, they want the skills and tools to get the job done, and they want a leader that has their best interests in mind. Well, these leaders, in order to have their best interests in mind, they're normally coming from the front line, so their ability to get to learn about management and training and what it is to be a leader, that's half the component. But the other one is to be around other leaders and to be able to connect other leaders to get more information to grow. So just tell me a little bit about how somebody goes from kind of being on their own island to getting into CC&G, and what does that kind of look like?
Well, obviously 32 plus years ago, it looked different than it is today. I mean, back in the day, we had to physically gather. Again, at the risk of aging both of us, there was no internet.
Sure.
So how are you going to communicate? We gathered a group of about 35 people, hosted there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I said, hey, guys, if you could sit in a room of people like yourself, what would you talk about? Once we identified what they wanted to talk about, which, no surprise here, people issues, process issues. These were not technology folks. In fact, they weren't even invited to the technology conversation. They were like, here it is, make it work.
Yeah.
I said, well, where do you learn about this stuff? Nothing. I said, wait a minute, we've got trade magazines and trade shows. Nope. And again, if you open up a trade magazine or you went to a trade show, there wasn't the booth that said success in hiring, right? I mean, it was all vendor driven, right?
Sure.
So that was kind of the concept. And if you speed the tape up to today, especially with the pandemic, the need to physically meet is a want to, but not a have to. So this transition to communicating on other platforms has been huge. And to your question, it opened up a lot of doors where people could say, well, come check this link out. And then, they can find a community. To clarify for you, because you and I haven't really gone through this, but for your audience, if you think of CC&G as a large network, under that network, there are main communities. We have a community of people who like to read blogs. And that is a big community, 37,000. We have a community that follows us on our video content. Think webinar. I mean, it's 11 years old. That's another 9,000 in that community. Like most, we have a community in our group on LinkedIn. And we learned some very valuable lessons. When you create a group on LinkedIn, it doesn't take long. Once you've got size, people want to use your group to promote their message. So we had to kind of make that a lockdown and kind of retool it. But there's another 9,000 folks. So when you start up adding all these communities, we began to learn that people will come to CC&G based upon their way they want to receive content, whether it's meeting people or reading something or downloading something or being a part of a conversation. And there's some other communities, but that's kind of how people are finding us today.
So do the individuals, do they end up creating a smaller group of people that they know or hang with, or and hang with is probably the wrong term, but are there ways to similarly situate to find the people that might matter to me? Is it based on subject, or is it based on geography or industry, or maybe all the above? I don't know.
Yeah, well, fortunately for us, there's a lot of people that have been involved in CC&G for a long time. And I jokingly tell people, I don't know why they stayed. I mean, we really don't deserve this loyalty, but they're there. And those people have moved in jobs and they have hired people. So we have the situation where we have a leader who said, I want my entire team involved. And then, as you can imagine, over 2, 3, 5 years, the team disperses and they become roots. So we have a lot of organic growth that way. But Mike, the best kept secret to some degree. I mean, we know thousands of people, and yet We're not a blip on the radar. We can't compete in the Google world. Although if people Google contact center network group or CCNG, eventually they do find us. I don't know how many pages deep you got to go. But generally speaking, it's word of mouth still to this day. And that's why the digital platforms have helped immensely. LinkedIn, Slack, members tend to share with other members. And again, let me clarify a member. In this case, a member is an individual or a company. So if you are a supplier of contact center solutions, if you, the individual, as a business development person or a marketing person, want to join. Price is the same. We treat you the same. A member's a member's a member. The distinction, the difference becomes at the corporate level, because obviously you take somebody like NetJets as one of our corporate members, and Calabrio or Plantronics Poly. Those are two very different type of organizations as to what their motivation is to join. So the easiest way to understand is there's content consumers.
Yeah.
That's kind of the people that want to get smarter, generally speaking. Those are the operations folks, supervisor, manager, director, VP. And there are content providers, bloggers, consultants, all the stuff that we need because we don't generate content. We're the pass through to bring people together. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's my
you did. I want you to give people some hope, because you're probably the best person to answer this because you've watched this. So people come into CCNG and may have started as a supervisor. Just how many people have you seen over time that are now, directors or VPs? I mean, the movement that you have to have seen over that course of time must be just wonderful to watch.
It is. And I think early on, we figured out that titles really don't matter. We had a meeting with, who was the guy? Oh, yeah, Brad Cleveland. We hired Brad to address a group of 25 people. And we went after all VP level, senior leaders. Well, come to find out, here's a VP who's like 14 years old, but he works for a bank, right? And that level of experience is much different than another VP who's maybe in his 40s, 50s. Back in those days, we had probably leaders were maybe 70, 80% male. Now it's more 60% female, which is really nice to also see. But we've seen this progressive growth of supervisor to manager to director. One of the reasons we're fortunate enough to see that is because we embrace supervisors. We didn't say you're not at the right level for us. We only want decision makers, right? So, when you're going to be around for the long haul, you realize people are going to get older, they're going to move up in their organizations.
Yeah.
And I'd say the other thing, Mike, that's rewarding is people leave their jobs and go elsewhere and bring us back in. And that's on both sides, on the solution side as well as on the operations side. And that's just a testament to sticking it out.
All right. Well, listen, I'm going to try to dial down into a couple subjects which the answers to, but I'm just curious. So if I'm a leader or a supervisor, no matter what I am, what I'm doing, and let's say that I've gotten involved in CCNG, or hopefully if I haven't, I'm thinking about doing it. I'm a terrible networker. I just am not someone that's really, really comfortable with networking.
Now, are we talking about Michael Tamer, or are we talking about a hypothetical?
No, we've had this discussion before. But you, on the other hand, from the time you were young, not that you're not young at heart now, have been brilliant at it. Tell me what you think networking is, and I know that you've got under the guise of CCNG, but now I'm just talking about just some of the basic skills to how to network.
Yeah, I think you first have to kind of get to a common definition of what is networking and what is a network, because they're two different things. Reid Hoffman, LinkedIn founder fame, has a podcast with another gentleman, and he was talking about defining networking and how most people think of it as kind of a slimy act of throwing down your business card at a cocktail reception. And, maybe in the day, but these days it's totally different. And I will tell you that if you think of networking as meeting people that you can help and can help you, you're going to approach it as something that is of value and importance, and it's based on a relationship. We do it in our lives. We don't necessarily do it in our business lives. The word that keeps coming back is trust. Because if Michael trusts David and that relationship, he's very likely to say, can you help me with X? Because you're not going to be embarrassed. It's not going to blow up in your face. There's trust. Keep in mind, customer service, customer support professionals always start with a mindset of, what can I do for you? They never say, what's in it for me? There's the other side of the house, kind of have a tendency of, hey, this is lead gen, or I'm trying to get something from it. So the key, I think, to building those relationships is putting something into it. You will get tenfold out of it. And if you manage those relationships, you may recall that I've been called in on several occasions to address sales groups, right? And I don't do it anymore. I feel like I'm, speaking to a blank audience. But I would say one thing every time. If you knew everyone you ever knew, you'd never have to go find people to talk to. You just keep updating the people you know, right? I got a new this or a new job, or I'm in real estate or whatever. So that's managing your network. The flip side of that is what we hear more often than not is, I'm out of a job. I never built my network. I'm in trouble. Yeah. You really realize how much you need that network. And Reid Hoffman talked about this. Those with strong networks probably have a job in 48 hours. Not because there's a job posting, but because someone realizes, wait a minute, Michael's available? He'd be perfect for that. We should pull him over here. Okay, that's what the network does, and on and on and on. So whether you're hiring folks, whether you are trying to evaluate how you're doing something against how someone else does something in a process, whether you're looking at technology, Michael, you and I had the same beginning. How many times were we asked to provide references? And in those circumstances, how many times did we say, take a card, any card, every reference perfect? We didn't. We handpicked 2 or 3 people that were going to, without our hands on their back, right, say the right things, right? But if you could talk to anyone that was using that technology in this case, would you get the same answer? Or would you get a variety, maybe a spectrum, and say, okay, now I know where the pros and cons are, and I'm getting a little better informed. That's what a network can do for you. We had that product. It works fine, but we've moved into this area. Why? What happened? How were you treated? Or, when CX became something, people were saying, how do I hire a customer experience? There isn't one. I go look into this. So they had to develop the role, and there was a lot of conversation around it. And you go on and on and on. Social media, the internet, cloud. Now it's hybrid workforce, remote working. It's the pandemic did one thing, and we can get into that a little deeper, but it reset for everybody. Everybody, for the first time in our careers in this industry, was going through the same thing at the same time. And all of a sudden, having a network of people that I could say, well, what are you doing, became invaluable.
So I heard a pastor once say something I thought was really interesting, which just really right in line with what you said. He said, if you want to be a great friend, right, be interested, not interesting, right? Which is,
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Say that again.
No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But being interested versus being interesting is exactly what you're saying, right? Which is, what can I do for you? How can I help?
Right.
How can I help you? And everybody knows that when you say, how can I help you, that hopefully you're hoping at some point that it might turn around the other way, and they might help you as well. But it's the offer
or
first.
maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, there are people that have been strong contributors to helping people along their journeys. I don't know that they've ever gotten anything, and they couldn't be more loyal.
Because they're more giving, and they're invested in the relationship, right? They're invested and willing to step up. We also talk a lot about the fact that in the contact center, you can be a great leader, but it requires hard work, it requires focus, and it usually requires somebody to come along and help you. And so seeking out a mentor, or it doesn't have to necessarily be a mentor, but you can not only seek out a mentor, but you can also be one, right? When you've got the skills and talent, in a particular area, you can help other people, and that's how you begin to build your network, and you begin to build your skills. Because if you think about it, right, if you and I are in a room and we want to go scuba diving, and I'm the only one that scuba dive, I'm the expert, even though I'm a horrible scuba diver. But but between you and our relationship, I'm the expert in scuba diving. So unless you're smart, which you would be really smart to go find somebody else, but at that point, I'm the
go-to guy,
right?
That's right. That's
I'm
right.
all you got.
It might be helpful, Michael, I can tell you something again. I've seen many, 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 many people go through this process, and it's interesting, but it's consistent. They come into, and it's sometimes helpful to think of CC&G as a room full of people. It could be virtual, but it could also be physical. So if you're sitting there, the first thing that these new people to the group do is they often come with a buddy, right? Safety in numbers. And they'll sit with them and observe. Like, I know I got into something and I don't know when the bad stuff's going to happen, but I know it's coming, right? Because stuff doesn't happen for free. Somebody's paying the bill here and they're going to try and sell me something. So that's just a testament to how many bad events they've been to. Right? So that's number one. The second thing is once they start hearing from people that are like themselves, tell a little bit about their story and share a little bit about how they're handling hiring. And guess what? Yeah, we may be a well-known brand. I don't want to pick on any one of the members, but we have trouble hiring too. Once they start hearing that, they start to open up a little bit and maybe they'll ask a question. Not really ready to share yet, and then the third part of that journey is I'm confident enough to step away from my partner and get into a group of peers, certainly at a small level, and they begin to realize I'm not just taking, I'm giving because people are asking me, well, how do you do it? How do you do it over at Alcon? And that's where young to the group or young in their careers, people begin to understand, wait a minute, I just became a leader. I'm the scuba guy.
Yeah.
I didn't anticipate this. And so in our regional field events prior to putting the pause for COVID, you would see that the energy level went because of that from low to high. And everyone was contributing. And they were getting stuff out of it they had no idea because people were asking them questions. And they have expertise. Every single person in the room is expert in how they do it. So we try and tap into that quite a bit, whether it's in digital format, virtual, or physical events.
So let's make that transfer. You talked about COVID and how that kind of changed your world. Well, obviously changed the world of everybody in the contact center. So not only does regional meetings go away, but in many instances, these people aren't even in the same offices anymore, right? They're working out of their house, and all the people that work from out of their house. So you've got a whole new level of isolation, and so a network, and then being able to and then networking, it's got to be valuable. Got to be even more valuable than it's ever been. So walk me through it. How did that change, and how have people reacted, and what's the results?
Well, I mean, I don't want to refer to a pandemic as, we were fortunate, but, the strength of CC&G and 30 plus years of my efforts is that in leading it is that we adapt. You have to adapt. And while no one saw this coming, and a lot of people said, I don't know that it's a real thing when it started.
Just a week. This is just going to be, it's just going to be a week.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I got a call, personal outreach from one of our senior leaders, SVP with a company who's in the mobile phone business. And he said, hey, we're getting concerned about this COVID thing. What's everyone else doing? I said, I have no idea. He said, well, could you put together one of those video? I said, you mean like a Zoom meeting? Yeah. I said, you mean the thing we've been talking about for the last 2 years that you guys are like, no, well, we'll just wait till the meeting in the field happens. That thing? He goes, yeah. So, all right. So we had about 60 people dial in for the topic was something like COVID 101. What are you doing? Right. And to be absolutely honest with you, 1 hour, we spent more time going, can you see me? Because no one had a clue. Right. So I like to say they all left feeling better and learned nothing. But we agreed that in 3 weeks, we'll do it again. And in that 3 weeks, I said, you will all have a 3-week story of how your company is reacting to it. That's what we want to get into. And that launched a whole series of what we call member town halls, where their topics drive the conversation. And they basically throw in all the stuff, right? So to answer your question, it was very interesting because there were corporate cultures that said, hey, we're a financial institution and we are not allowing work from home. And on the other end of the spectrum, it's like, oh, we got it covered. We have a work from home program. Both of them were quite surprised at where they ended up, which was a dramatic go. And some of these people were not prepared. We heard every possible story from grab your desktop, take it with you. Wait a minute, what about security? Go. It did. All of a sudden, all the obstacles were gone. So, and that is a big part of the conversation today because, as you well know, we've been at it 2 years and now people are hesitant to come back. I like the work from home environment. There are a lot of little nuanced things that we learned along the way. I'll share one with you. A senior leader, obviously, internally, you had to have these meetings as well because your team is gone. And that was kind of new. So, but actually, that was kind of the starting point, not necessarily dealing with customers and video. Dealing with customers from home, but that would all be phone call. But internally, we had a lot of this video stuff. And one senior leader told me that he learned a very valuable lesson the hard way in that when we opened up the cameras for our home environment, whatever that looked like, some people were literally at a kitchen table. Some people were in the extra bedroom. And here's the senior leader, and now I'm just throwing myself under the bus here, sitting in a beautiful study with books. And he realized very quickly, that's not the impression I want to give. So the next meeting, for every meeting thereafter, he trades places with his wife, as he said, and I went down into the basement because, not everyone has this work from home setup. So a lot of learnings happened in the last 2 years of how people were perceived. The resistance to video kind of went away. And I don't know if I answered all the questions that you asked there initially, but there was a lot of giving by this group to help others along the way. And there's still a lot of giving to get because no one's really got the magic bullet.
Do you think that people are, kind of a crazy question, which by the way, we will get back to the fact that he switched places with his wife who was in the basement. That's probably a whole nother subject we probably won't delve into, but but do you think people are more lonely? I mean, I know that sounds like kind of a strange question to ask, but do you get the sense that there's a business loneliness out there, and so a CCNG or just someone to connect with that are people that are not just me? I mean, do you think there's more of that? Do you think that's why your business has grown?
I think that's certainly an element. We've always said, why do call center people, now contact center people gather? Because misery loves company. I mean, all day long they're fielding calls from people who are not saying, just called to tell you how happy I am with you. So agent, right? So just being in your peers is valuable. But then when you add the environment of a pandemic, I think it was magnified quite a bit because people really enjoy, at least early on, they enjoyed this visual stimulation of being able to talk to somebody other than internal or customers. I think there's a little bit of burnout on it now, quite frankly, but it's interesting that it brought a whole lot of people to the party that weren't in the party because the party was, we're all going to Vegas. It's callcenterplanet.org, and when you do the numbers, there isn't even a grain of sand of the amount of people that are in our industry that went to the conference. So I think it just opened up a lot of people to a lot of different things, and that's been a big part of the growth.
So you're dealing with thousands, and I know you don't individually deal with thousands.
Oh, I do. In fact, I've got 20,000 calls lined up as soon as we're done here.
But
no, there's no way.
Just because it's not a survey, but it's close. And what are some of the key challenges that you see in the marketplace that people are challenged with? And I know they might be basic, but because you deal with so many people, I just like to give the viewers a chance to make themselves feel like they're not alone. What are some of the challenges that people are facing that you're seeing, through your group?
I think the number one, we talk about 4 elements: people issues, process issues, technology issues, and cultural issues. In our industry, there's a lot of consultants that also agree with that. But what we see is about 85% of the conversation is people and process. During the pandemic, I think the people side even grew, but they quickly realized that the process piece is tied to the people piece, right? So sending someone home is one element of dealing with people, but not giving them the tools to do the job right or the process change. Give you an example. We know how to train new people. We send them into the training room and we train them. But since they're not coming in, we don't have that. or the knowledge base. It's different now that they're remote, right? So there's a lot of processes that had to adjust. So I would say the topics are now really, well, they were cultural, going back to the, hey, we don't have a work from home and we're never going to. And then all of a sudden we all were thrown into it. A lot of that stuff was discussed early on, but today it's much more around keeping the hybrid workforce model together, whatever that looks like for you. And so there's a lot of questions on how are you doing this? We had a question just this week, which was, my supervisors are asked to do a lot more than just supervise under the current work environment. Are you, fellow peers, compensating your supervisor? Are you asking them to do more than what we originally had planned in the job description? And have you upped their compensation due to that? It's not a question I can answer, but you could talk to 3 or 4 other people and get some perspective. So there's a lot of people and process. One other thing that came from this was, it's almost comical, but in January, prior to the pandemic, if you said you need to move to the cloud and get off of that premise-based stuff, we know we'll get there. No worries, there's no hurry. And then all of a sudden this happens and we realize, it's not going to work unless we have this flexible solution. And they're buying, the next guy who walks in with a cloud deal, buy one of those because we need this. Now we're seeing the ramifications of that, where people are saying, hey, we're 3 years into a contract. Sorry, we're 18 months into a 3-year contract, and this thing isn't working. And obviously the starting point is this product sucks. And I always say, well, hold on. I know that product. I know a lot of members using that product. Let's park that over here. Let's get to the source of your frustration. It's support. And why are you not getting the support from the vendor? Well, maybe we may have rushed that evaluation process a little because we had to put something in on Monday and we made the decision on Friday, the day before, or whatever. The other side of that is when we talk to the vendor community, is there any truth to this? And the answer is, when you have trust, you can get different answers. Yeah, there is some truth to that. Why? Because the fish were jumping in the boat. We have so much new business, we can't possibly support it the way we were pre-COVID. So it's not really where you are, who you are, what's your vertical, what's your size, but rather how you're going to be supported. And that's the process and some technology conversations that are going on today. And one other thing, all of a sudden we need self-service. All of a sudden we got to open up new channels because we just don't have the staff to handle the load anymore. So a lot of conversations on how did you guys implement chat, or are you using a third party to do some of this? So it kind of shuffled the deck a little bit in terms of the conversation. That's some of what's going on.
All right. So good news is I only have 3 more questions for you. So here we go. Number 1, what have you seen that leaders today may have just missed? That they just kind of missed it.
Good question. If I can oversimplify that to say we have 2 types of leaders, maybe this will help understand what I'm trying to convey. We have leaders that are a bit concerned about keeping control over how we do business here at fill in the blank company. And then we have leaders that are saying, hey, if someone's got a better answer, go find it. Interestingly, the industry may have caused a little bit of this problem because we put brands like Disney, Zappos, Nordstrom's, USAA on a pedestal that says, perfect, gold standard. So what do you think the people internal to that organization are exposed to? You can go anywhere you want as long as you're the expert sharing how and why we're the experts. Gold standard. They're not interested in getting out there and going, we really suck at hiring too. They don't want you to participate in that. So that's, what type of leader are you, as I'm trying to answer the question. The other kind, I think the things that are missed is what could be learned from people who aren't in our vertical. We tend to train, come on in, this is company X, these are the 4 walls, this is how we do business. Got it. We're real good at training like that. By the way, because we're in the financial industry, here's 25 other banks we compete with or institutions, and we go to an annual Let's Be Banks conference and we learn from them, right? Okay, that's cool. But it usually stops right there. What if I'm not a bank, right? What could I learn from people who are in my same community physically that we just hired from them and we just lost someone over there? Why? What's going on? So that encouragement of getting out there, getting that exposure to other people who are doing it differently is often missed. And it's funny because I'll use T-Mobile because Jerry was the last person to say it to me. He said, how come I've never heard of CC&G? I said, well, for starters, Jerry, you're an SVP on Mount T-Mobile. You see, everyone's coming to you. You don't have to go anywhere, right? But the rest of us down here at the base of the mountain, we've got to scrap and claw to get information because no one will talk to us. So check yourself as a leader. Am I encouraging that? Am I saying get out there? You don't have to physically go anywhere. Staples came to us at one point and said, we're teaching our people how to leverage LinkedIn. And that's how we came to CC&G. We didn't even know a group like this existed. But the leader said, I want to know 2 people you've met that can help you, that you met through LinkedIn, and gave them homework and taught those people how to network, how to get out there, how to find people. So I would say, to answer your question, summarize it, what kind of leader are you? Are you the ones that are trying to protect, right? Mr. Sun, Mr. Rain, right? Are you the ones trying to keep the coat on, or are you the ones trying to voluntarily encourage them to take the coat off?
We always tell people, love the answer. We always tell people that, your customer goes out, they talk to their bank, they go to their cable company, they go to their local store, whatever it is. They're not comparing your bank against other banks because they don't have other banks. They've just got you. Right? They're comparing their service against, hopefully it's against the motor vehicle department, but odds are pretty good. It's probably not the motor vehicle department. It's whoever they talk to that week. So anyway, that was question 1. Question 2, more personal. What do you do when you're not CCNGing? What do you do with your time?
Well, if I can answer it this way, and I'm throwing you under this bus with me, are approaching our mid-60s. Why are you working? What are you doing? What does retirement look like? What does that next phase of your career look like? I've talked to I'm fortunate that I have a number of people that are close in my age. And the people that I admire have shifted from trying to meet goals and objectives and, a spreadsheet life to how can I contribute? How can I help others? And that's kind of my vision in retirement. Rather than stepping away and walking away, I had this conversation with my wife, who hopefully never sees this interview, about retiring. And I said, okay, fine, next week. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Next week, I'm retired. You know what's going to happen? You're going to continue. My wife is retired, by the way. You're going to continue in your world, which, by the way, she's on some boards. She's involved in her college, hence Colgate, in the alumni council. She's giving and giving and giving. I'm probably going to get on the phone and talk to the people I'm talking to, pretty much do the same thing, but with a different mindset. How can I help? And so my job or my idea of what I enjoy doing, aside from personal stuff, and I'll mention that in a minute, is how can I help CC&G now as an advisor to CC&G? I'm not dealing with the nuts and bolts anymore, but we have a lot of people looking for jobs. We have a lot of people looking for solutions. We have a lot of people with challenges. And I'm more than happy to listen and pass them on to someone that can help. And that's where I enjoy contributing. So that occupies about an hour a week. No, I'm kidding. But, we're fortunate enough. We have 2 grandkids, 1 on the way. My life's going to keep evolving personally, and that pie of how much of your time do you spend traveling with your family and grandkids and doing those activities that you enjoy doing, whether it's sports related, golf, skiing, and the things that I enjoy, or other, that wedge of the pie continues to grow. But I think the thing that I've learned it from my father and others, is it's very hard to take a knife edge cut and just stop doing what you do. Just keep winding it down so it fits into the world you want to live in, and you'll be much happier. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I hope that answers your question.
It did. And then my last question for you: what question didn't I ask you that I should have?
Is CC&G going to continue on, and how? And when you build something like this, you realize that your real dream is that when I'm gone, it continues to adapt and adjust, which means control of the topics, the agenda, the direction really has to be in the hands of the members. And that's my hope.
So great answer. If
Although if you want to pay me to leave, Mike, I'm all ears.
If people want to connect with it, obviously it's ccng.com. Anything else? Give me a 1-minute pitch. Where do they go? What do they look for?
I think first of all, ask anyone you know in the industry if they're involved in it, and if they are, follow their lead. You can come to our website, of course, and pick your poison on where you want to start, or you can just simply reach out to us through the website. But at the end of the day, we don't sell CCNG because we don't have to, and I don't mean that in any way other than if we're serving value, someone's going to say, yeah, you need to be a part of that. Here's why I'm a part of that. So ask a peer or two. Obviously, you can find us on LinkedIn. Obviously, you can find me on LinkedIn. But if the $10 question is, if you were part of CCG, what would you do with it? You want to join the health club? Fine, you're in. What are you going to do? Try to answer that question, and it'll help you jumpstart your reasoning behind getting involved in CCG.
Well, listen,
or any group. And Mike, I want to say that one last thing. Yeah, we're talking about CCG, but at the end of the day, every group has value. Find those peer groups, not just us. If you're in the Northeast, there's the Northeast Call Center Forum Club. Go be a part of that. If you're in Austin, they have an organization. I mean, it's not limited, it's unlimited. Just get outside your box.
Perfect. Well, David, listen, I'm so grateful that you spent some time with me today and with obviously the folks that are watching this. And grateful
both
for all
of
your
them,
input.
both of the people that watch this. I think
that's great. Grateful for your input. David said something right there at the end. He said, he goes, go find somebody in the industry and see what they think. And I think that's really kind of the definition of networking, and kind of all the things that we talked about here today is to go find somebody in the industry and see what they think. And that's probably what I'm going to begin to use going forward to describe these video podcasts. I've ended every single audio podcast that I've had, and now the video podcast, which is, listen, I know you have the capacity to be a great leader. It just requires some hard work, focus, and somebody to come alongside you and help you. And if you're the kind of person that can be helping, then go help somebody else. Go bring somebody alongside. CCNG is a great place to go find some people to come alongside you. You can't get there on your own. You need help. You need other people. As David just said, go find some other people in the industry and see what they think. It's been great to talk to you this week. So grateful that David joined us. Look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Michael.
You are being forwarded to the contact center coach.
This program is sponsored by Proponisi, where I'm the president and CEO. Proponisi is the Greek word for coaching. We provide SaaS technology to centers like yours. Most contact centers struggle with their people, whether it be overcoming monotony, attrition, or getting superior performance. Our solution makes it easier and cost-effective to get even more than you could possibly have expected from your front line. The result is loyal customers, engaged employees, and winning, provable, profitable results. You can reach us at proponisi.com.